Welcome to a new episode of the Living Unconventionally podcast. Today we have a rare opportunity. We talk with a German employer who is hiring in English. So if your dream was to move overseas, to move to Europe and experience a new lifestyle while still working in your profession, then today you have a very concrete opportunity to that. Welcome, Dr. Joachim Schlosser. Hello, Joachim.
Pleasure to be here. Hi, Chris.
Joachim, you work for Elektrobit GmbH, which is a daughter of Continental. Can you tell our listeners very quickly, what does your company do?
Yeah, very quickly, Elektrobit Automotive does software for the automotive industry. So that means software for the ECUs, the electronic control units, sometimes also the backends. And we do a lot of operating systems, middleware, but also everything infotainment related, and that puts us in a very nice place and in a very good situation and a very interesting time in the automotive industry.
So you put the front in cars.
Yeah, you could tell that. So there's approximately 100 million cars driving around with our software. So we're quite some decades into the business. It's 35 years now.
Mm-hmm. And we talked a little bit in advance, 5-6 years before, 5-6 years ago. I'm sorry, you started to hiring in English. Can you tell me a little bit why you made this decision?
Yeah, well, we've been an international company for a long time, with its headquarters in Erlangen in Bavaria, in Germany. But with subsidiaries all over the world, in different continents and different countries. And so the need to hire in English was there even long before those few years ago. But more and more, we've grown the consciousness that we are truly an international company, also within Germany. And so now almost all of the new job postings are in English, are available in English. And if you still find German ones, those are mostly duplicates of the English ones. And so all internal communication also does happen in English within the company, even in the German sites. And the reason is very simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, please.
The reason being very simple. Well, if you wanna deliver globally, and if you want to get the best talent globally, well, you better start hiring in English.
Just for context, some of you might think, where's the big deal in hiring in English? I've been analyzing the German job market for the last 12-13 years, and I can tell you that in Germany, only 4% of German companies hire in English, advertise in English. Mm-hmm. And from all these English jobs, 50% are offered by just 350 companies. Mm-hmm. At the same time, we have over 1 million immigrants per year into Germany. So you can understand what the competition is for those English jobs. And you made an interesting point that is often a question of concern for a lot of my coaching clients. You said that, okay, even if you find a German language job ad, it's very often just a duplicate. One question I get very often from coaching clients is, hey, if the job ad is in German, but I feel I can do this job, should I still apply, or should I simply give up? From your perspective as a recruiter, as a experienced human resource manager, what would your advice be? Not just for your company first, of course, but in general.
Well, if you find a German language job posting that has nothing about language requirements, I would just go and try it out, because what more can you get than a decline message? And in best case, they find out, hell, we didn't even think about posting this job in English. And so you may move one step forward. Of course, if there is an exclusive requirement, hey, perfect German skills required, yeah, you'd better bring those German skills then, because there are still those jobs where German language skills are very, very essential. And we still have roles where it's very, very difficult to do without German.
I would, I completely agree with you. I would go even one step farther. Other companies who are not as professional as yours, they very often simply copy paste what they have in all the job ads. No? So if you feel like
True.
there's no objective reason why you couldn't do this job, just like you said, Joachim, try it out, and what's the worst thing that can happen is that you get rejected. And I even experienced companies where the HR department rejected candidates on the basis of language. And then later, my coaching client got in contact with the hiring manager, and they told, what is she talking about? The whole department is English speaking. So, but let's get back to Electrobit. Hiring in English for quite a good number of positions. Can you tell us about 2 that you are currently hiring for?
Yes, I first of all would like to mention the position, or it's a class of positions which circle around the automotive software architect. So software architects dedicated for the automotive industry, because everything we do in software, it's not just writing software, it's ensuring that the proper software architecture is in place, so that all the structure, that all the technology choices are made in a way that really fits the problem at hand. And so the role of the architect is a very, very essential one. Technically guiding the development team to where we really need to go. And so the need for software architects is a very high one within the company, within Electrobit, but also in the industry in general. And it especially targets experienced people. So you rarely will find a junior architect, because in many cases they will start in other roles and then move over to the architect side. And it's a very essential role. Sure.
Yes. If I may ask, when I sit on your desk for a second, and I see the incoming applications, what's the first thing you are looking for someone for this position? What's the #1 criteria for you?
The number one criteria is really the CV. What has that person done before? Was there a single development role? Was there multiple roles in different organizations? Did they get to know different organizations, maybe even? What is the technology exposure that they had? That is what interests me when getting the CV or when getting the application on my desk. And then, of course,
is there something that would move me as an applicant right to the top of your list, where you would immediately think like, oh, okay, this is interesting,
You see, these days in automotive, we very often have an intersection of different technologies. So we have the deep embedded C++ side. We have the agile side of the frameworks that organizations now develop in. We have advanced technologies like machine learning stuff and all the networking stuff of old networks, and also new technology networks, or at least new to the automotive world. And if people have some experience in different areas of technology, that very often makes them a good fit for architect roles, because as an architect, you will have to have seen different areas, like in real architecture. If you only have seen wooden huts all your life, you probably will have difficulties becoming an architect for office buildings 30 stories high. So you will have to have exposure to different technologies.
Yeah, I can understand that. It makes a lot of sense to me. Maybe move on to another role. You have a lot of different ones. Let's talk about 2. What's the second one you are looking for right now?
Also, an example is the developer in Linux technologies. So we recently launched our embedded automotive Linux called EB Corpus Linux, and that's an upward trend for us and for the whole industry. And so, of course, we need more developers in that area. And that also shows nicely that what you think embedded development for automotive was, and if for people that also are longer in their business experience, they might think, oh, it's those embedded systems with minimal operating systems and whatnot. But automotive is so much bigger now, with Linux-based operating systems, with technologies that previously have been known mostly from desktop or internet services. And those now move over to the automotive industry as well, with additional requirements, of course. And that makes it very interesting. So even if you know Linux from what you've done before, putting that into automotive systems where lives depend on the correct function of the software, I mean, that is a whole nother story that makes this interesting. And then in this range, there's Linux developers, there's Android developers that we look for. There's, of course, also classical AUTOSAR developers. So the framework that is very popular in embedded systems in automotive. And so, yes, software does not just happen, and you don't just need architects, you also need the people that actually do write the software. Yes.
Yeah. And when you look at these roles, again, I would like to ask, what would be one thing that would move me right to the top of the list of candidates? So you would feel about.
Well, if the CV already screams, yes, I have really developed software, I'm not just talking about developing software, but I've really done it, that, of course, is a good thing. But it's not just for the very experienced ones. We also hire junior developers that grow with us. But you can see very quickly also in CVs whether people just learned how to program at university, or whether they really are engaged in software development, also with extracurricular activities and such.
This brings me to an interesting question that just runs through my head. If I put a virtual gun to your head and I would make you choose, between one candidate who has a lot of experience in maybe 2 or 3 different softwares, but not in the software that you use mostly. And on the other side, you would have a candidate who has experience in exactly this software that you use, but it's less experience, maybe like half as much experience. From your gut feeling, in whom would you be more interested?
Actually, both. there are so many open positions, we'd hire both.
That's very good. These are a lot of course, IT software related positions, like in every company I entered. Do you hire also in other areas in English, or would you say, okay, the main area where we hire in English is software development, architecture, and if you want to work in different areas, then you probably will need German. I don't talk about words like accounting also, where obviously you need German language, but other areas.
Funny that you say that, because even in accounting, within the German office, we do have English-speaking people. Because yes, the rules and regulation and legislation is in German, but available in English most often, and the actual doing can be done with English as a primary language nowadays. But all the roles around software to bring the software actually to the organizations that need it, be it product manager, be it product marketing personnel, I mean, many of those these days come from non-German origin countries in an increasing manner. It's a development for us. So you still will find teams where the vast majority, almost all people, are from German origin, but even in those teams, it's starting now. And that has started, like I said, 5 or 6 years ago, where we realized also within Germany, okay, we got to change the game a little bit on here, and you can't just flip and now half of the Electrobit population is of a different origin, but it's growing, and people are welcome here. For teams that have their first non-German team member, of course, it's a little bit of adaptation time, because suddenly, oh, they have a team meeting, they start doing it in English now, and that might be an obstacle for some of the long existing team members. But people adapt, and it's engraved in the company now. All of the internal larger events are in English language, and so people have adapted in the last few years and will adapt further, and the pandemic really has helped with that.
Yeah, it's one thing that I also experienced, that in Germany, change takes forever.
Yep.
And then, but once people start to change one thing, they are more willing to make the second step as well, because they realize that, oh, it's not as scary as I thought.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's very interesting that you mentioned marketing, because from my practice over the years, marketing is one area where it's super hard to convince German employers to give someone a chance in English. Consulting is a different area, because they all use the argument that, okay, we sell mostly to German Mittelstand and we speak fluent English, but our clients are stupid and don't, which I don't know if it's really true, because half of export, our business export.
Our marketing material is not, for the most part, not even available in German. So we do English, we do Japanese, we do some Chinese. German, outside dedicated event marketing or so, everything you find also on our website is in English. We don't even have a German website. We don't have one.
Okay, that's really interesting. Joachim, thank you very much so far. I have a couple of more questions if you have time. Number one is, if I'm a candidate, I want to apply for a job in your company, how can I make your life as a recruiter, or your team's life in this case, how can I make it more easy? Meaning, where should I apply to streamline your process? What kind of documents do you want me to send? Do you want a cover letter? Do you not want a cover letter? How can I make it more easy for you to evaluate?
So the central entry point for all job related stuff is jobs.electrobit.com. So this is really the entry point where you find all the open jobs where you can directly apply in your browser. Oh yeah, please. Yes, please. As for what I personally need most, and what for my fellow hiring managers need most, of course, it rises and falls with the CV, with the quality of the CV. So ensure that you have a good quality CV that really tells something about you. I'm not interested in a laundry list of exactly what you have done in the job, but also I'm interested in a little bit more than just the role title that you had in your previous career phases. So find a good middle ground between not telling anything what you did and bombarding me with gazillions of laundry list items of what your job consisted of. Give me a sense, give me a feeling of what it really was. Which means, for example, coming back to the developer, tell me some technology, some piece, if you're allowed to write on it. Give me a little bit of a glimpse of what it was that you worked on. And for the architect, tell me a little bit about the technologies that you worked with. That's very interesting in the CV. And then for the cover letter, I personally would always include a cover letter, because I personally, when hiring, I'm a big fan of cover letters, because the cover letter tells me something that CVs often don't, especially if they don't simply repeat the CV. But I also know that other hiring managers don't put as much emphasis on the cover letter as I do. So the CV is essential. The cover letter is usually a good idea because and if not the company needs it, I would always recommend to write a cover letter, because this puts you in the space to really think about, why would this position be a good one for me? And then just write exactly that down, and boom, you have a good cover letter.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. In my opinion, the role of the cover letter and the CV are different. The CV is where I look into details of what you have achieved, what you can do, what you can't do. The cover letter tells me why I should be interested in the first place.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah,
so as
absolutely.
a headhunter or recruiter, why should I be interested and not in the 50 other applications that are on my desk? No. Yeah, I agree. Time is nearly over. What is one question that I didn't ask you that you wished I asked?
Yeah, well, the question might be, why Electrobit? Because most of your listeners might not even have heard about Electrobit before. So what makes us special or different?
Yeah, then let me ask you, Joachim, what makes Electrobit special and worthwhile for future?
Yeah. So I feel Electrobit has a very special place in the software industry in Germany and in the automotive industry in Germany as well, because with roughly over 3,500 people, we're not really small anymore. It's kind of big, but not too big. You still have a chance of getting to know a lot of people. You still have a chance of making a difference here. And with different sites in Germany, you even are free to where you actually live, and there's a lot of mobile work since the pandemic situation. And then it's yeah, it is. And then it's those little things like lifelong learning possibilities. So there's an enterprise license for Udemy and Good Habits that everybody can just use. And exciting things are happening in the automotive industry market. And it's not by accident that our CEO, Maria Anhalt, was just recently named of one of the top influencers, top women influencers and top influencers in tech in all electronics.de. And that does not come by coincidence, because she really makes a difference for the company since she's arrived here. And so the company is changing, and with her, we're beginning to make a bigger difference for the industry. And so if people want to be part of that, well, then just join us.
Dr. Joachim Schlosser, head of recruiting at Electrobit, daughter of Continental. Thank you very much for your time, Joachim. And if you enjoyed this episode of the Living Unconventionally podcast, subscribe and like, as my son always says. See you then, or listen to you then. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
I will stop the recording here. One moment. If I find out, here.